Hi everyone, welcome to my channel again. Please follow it. Don't forget that bell. Click that bell when you like this page, and you'll get lots of updates about psychic things and mystical things and spiritual topics all the time. So today I'm going to talk about what are the signs to show that you're psychic. Because obviously a lot of people that come to my channel, obviously some of you are seasoned psychics and mediums working professionally, but there's a lot of young people that come to the site here and want to know about, am I psychic? And, how can I develop it? Well, first of all, if you have a look at my website, I've got a psychic IQ test on there, actually, and I'll put a link in the bottom that will take you to the main pages so you can go and find out more and test yourself a little bit more online. But I'm going to tell you a little bit today about how the main signs about what would indicate that you may have some form of psychic ability. Now, firstly, I think everybody has psychic ability in some form or another, First of all, we all have intuition. Well, most of us do, don't we? Because a lot of people, they're a bit armoured. But if they were a little bit less armoured, as it were, they might find they actually do have intuition. But psychic people generally are much more intuitive than other people. This is why in a lot of psychic research that they've done, when they've tested for psychological personality types, they found that a lot of people have quite a lot of artistic abilities because they're naturally creative, because creative people are naturally intuitive. So that often goes hand in hand. So you get a lot of people that might have an interest in music, in art, and particularly visual arts, who are quite a natural psychic ability, that intuitive side. In fact, I was taught by a policeman, and coppers, they have an intuitive ability, don't they? They always do. So that's another. That quite often, I've known a number of mediums. I've known at least 3, maybe 4. Four mediums who have been policemen in their past. So there's another interesting thing. But if you've got intuition, that might be things getting strange gut feelings about something, or you might just know something's going to happen and it comes true. It's a sort of a sixth sense that gives you a pre-warning. So this could be your intuitive abilities coming out. Now, the other good sign is if you have signs of clairvoyance. Now, that's an often misused word, but clairvoyance means clear seeing. So in this instance, I'm going to refer to it as the ability to get visions, as it were. Okay, that's not strictly what it is in ESP terms. Again, if you follow the links on the site, you can get the proper definitions that Ryan made. But you may get just those hints. You might have a very strong visual imagination, for example, and this can be a sign of a psychic ability, because often people that are psychic have a very strong visual ability. They can visualize things, in 3D and things like that, and can see things in their mind's eye, And if you have this kind of open-minded, almost like dreamlike ability in waking life and in meditation, for example, this ability to be able to see it, as it were, inside, that's a sign perhaps that you may have your what we call the third eye open up, the pineal gland in the middle of the brain, which is like an old eye from primordial times, that is our sense of seeing, the Ajna chakra in Hinduism. So this is another possible sign. If you have very strong, clear visual imagination, that can show that you do have the possibilities of having clairvoyance, which in actual fact in psychic terms means clear seeing, but it means the ability to see something. For example, remote viewing, where a person can see something happening at a distance, will come into the mind as a picture. So if you get those clear pictures that suddenly mean something, and you find out later on it means something, that could be a sign that you have some perhaps latent psychic ability. People often think that if you have deja vu experiences, this can be a sign of psychic ability too. But that's sometimes a misconception, because you get that feeling that you've done something before. But that can often be a sign of tiredness and not necessarily a psychic ability, because when you get a deja vu experience, one of the theories of it is that the short and long-term memories in a person get muddled up. So we try to recall something with our short-term memory, and we use our long-term memory, so we get the sense that we've known it for a long time. So it gives us an illusion that we have this been here before experience, and that's a scientific view. That might not be necessary. I'm not saying that is necessarily the case, because it could be signs of knowledge of reincarnation. But that sort of ability can be a possible sign sometimes that you have psychic abilities, because sometimes psychic people get a feeling of strange coincidence, strange synchronicity, strange twists in time, right? And some psychic people get these glimpses of ancient history, which brings me to another type of psychometry, which we would perhaps call a psychometric or psychometry type of experience, where we can feel the vibrations of objects. Now, psychic people will pick up on atmospheres of places. So this could be another sign, if you go into somewhere like a church, for example, you might feel the happy atmosphere of that place. Well, the spiritual atmosphere of that place, where many people have worshipped for centuries. It's infused in the walls. Or if you went to somewhere really horrible, like a haunted house type things, you might sense naturally the foreboding of a place, where people have been killed or murdered, a battlefield, or I often quote Belson, if you go there where the birds don't sing, you might feel the heavy energy of a place. So this type of ability to sense an environment is also another sign of a potential psychic ability. And one of the most important, really, and this is one of the most trigger things of psychic abilities, is that ability of telepathy, which is sharing thoughts, mind-to-mind communication, right? Now, that can quite often happen over any distance. So, for example, the phone might go, and you know who it's going to be before you answer it, and because you've already connected with the person over a distance. This often happens. I've had it happen with a friend of mine. I've quoted this before, I think, where we hadn't called each other for nearly 4 years, and I went to call him and he went to call me at exactly the same time for no reason, but we were both engaged because we were trying to ring each other, and we hadn't spoken for years and years and years. So it was like we must have had some connection there between our minds. That one really stuck in my mind. But telepathy happens all the time with psychic work, because when you're giving somebody a reading psychically, you can pick up their thoughts. And when you do spiritual work like a medium, your thoughts will connect with the thoughts of the people in the spirit world. So you don't see ghosts and figures and things like that. That's a misconception. What you do is you connect inwardly, and you will feel a mind-to-mind communication with a person in the spirit. So that's another strong sign. If you have these telepathic abilities, you might, for example, finish people's sentences. You might know what someone's going to say before they say it, and the telephone example, there's lots of cases where we sometimes maybe share a dream, have the same dream as someone else at the same time. Those are telepathic abilities, very important for anybody that's developing a genuine psychic ability. And going back to dreams again, because dreams are a very strong sign of psychic ability, because it's through our dreams that we access our intuition. And again, the dreams are a very visual area too, which, as I said before, psychic people are usually very visually orientated. So if you get very vivid dreams, it could be a sign that you have some psychic abilities. And I've written whole books about dreams and psychic abilities, but there's many cases, for example, where dreams have proven to have foreseen the future. This is what we call precognition, seeing the future, precognition. And dreams have been a very rich source of these telepathic, these visions of the future, of being able to see things. Often when I make my predictions, they sometimes come through dreams. And there's lots of interesting cases out there like people that were going to had booked tickets for the Titanic, cancelled their tickets at the last minute because of a bad dream, and it saved their lives, So this ability to foresee the future is of course another sign of psychic ability, and it will come out particularly through dreams in the first place. And if you just get gut feelings about things that are going to happen, if you get gut feelings about what you think might happen in the future, that is another good sign that you may have some in psychic abilities, because obviously seeing the future, it makes a lot of sense in terms of in our evolution, doesn't it? If we knew something bad's about to happen and we could find a way of avoiding it, that makes survival sense, as the evolutionists would say. So that ability to see the future is another one, but you need to prove it to yourself, you see. And I would suggest that one way to do this, and particularly if you start working with dreams, is to keep a dream diary and write your dreams down and see how many of them later on may have hints about things that came to pass later on in real life. I mean, I've kept dream diaries. I don't keep them so much now, but I used to keep them quite some years ago as an experiment with this. And I look back at them, and I looked at, my God, those things all came to pass years later. You know, the same events that happened in those dreams happened in real life. So they can be a very rich source, not just now, but they can point for a long period in the future for you, and may give you a lot of self-confidence, because then you realise that your psychic abilities are real, you know. Of course, the other one is the most important, is mediumship. Now, a lot of people can develop psychic ability, but very few develop mediumship. And mediumship is when you communicate with the spirit world. But maybe you get a sense of the spirit people around you. Maybe you get a feeling that somebody's connecting with you somehow, you know. You feel that there's a presence around you. And most mediumship works, again, through what we call clairsentience, where we're sensing it inwardly. You know, we don't necessarily see spirits outside of ourselves, we sense them inwardly. Like when I work, I hear a voice, like Doris Stokes used to do. She used to say, describe it, a voice in my ear. And although it's not strictly in your ear, you hear the voice, as it were. You hear, in apostrophes, the voice of the spirit person talking to you. So do you get that? You know, some people often get it through familiar songs and things that the spirit person knew, you know. Again, these things have to be tested. You can't just assume that you've got psychic ability because you hear an inner voice. Obviously, there's people that have all sorts of weird inner voices that are nothing to do with spiritualism and nothing to do with mediumship. But if you learn to listen to that voice, and maybe can share that information with somebody that you're close to, and say, look, would you understand this? You know, did you know somebody that lived at such and such a road or such and such a name? Then you can start to prove it. You've got to get verification. But this is a sign, definitely, of more than psychic abilities in this case. This idea of hearing voices, which we call clairaudience, is a very powerful psychic ability that only mediums have. You know, it's rarer than the other things I've described. And then, so most people get really, and I'll conclude with this, but most people really get what we call clairsentience. It's a sort of knowing, you know. You just get a gut feeling. It's like intuition, but it's more than that, you know. You feel it in your body quite often, you know. Clairsentience, when a medium works and is describing somebody in the spirit world. So I've got someone connecting from the spirit world, I would have to describe how they passed, and I might feel a pressure on my chest for a fraction of a second, and I say, oh, they had a lung problem, you know, or pain in my heart, and not so I don't feel it's a pain, but slight, quick, fast passing sensation that will tell me the passing conditions, which can be all sorts of things. You know, you suddenly feel you've got cancer, or you feel you've got a liver complaint, or whatever, or brain tumour, and you just say it, right? So that is a form of clairsentience. So you're picking up these vibrations all the time, and each psychic person will experience things in different ways. You know, I've described a number of the ways we feel the psychic ability unfolding in ourselves. But I think the most important thing really is, first of all, to trust your intuition, and then see if you can test it somehow to prove that it's real, that it's not just your imagination. And the only way you're going to do that is if you've got the courage to share your insights with other people. You know, say, look, I've got a feeling I'm psychic. Can I practice on you for a bit? You know, that's how I started when I first started. Just practiced on friends or people I didn't know that well, so I could sort of give them things. I could tell them things about their life or about things that happened to them, but I didn't have any conscious knowledge of. And that way you'll build your confidence up. And if you really want to develop your psychic abilities, you really need to sit in a circle, you know, what we call a spiritualist circle. And they're very rare nowadays. There's not many teaching mediums out there. And you've seen by the side here today, I've got my book up called Psychic School. That book actually tells you how to set up your own circle, really. It teaches you how to develop your psychic abilities on your own and also in a group. I've written a book called The Psychic Workbook, which talks all about how to develop psychic abilities on your own. But if you really properly want to develop psychic abilities, you need to get a group of people together and work together, practicing on each other as a group, because the shared energy is very powerful. It's greater than the sum. The parts are great. The whole is greater than the sum of its parts, as it were. We magnify each other's energy when we work in a group. And really, to properly develop psychic abilities, you do need to work as a group with other people. Okay, well, there's a few pointers of some of the basics of the things that you can prove that you've got some form of psychic ability. My book, Psychic School, will show you how to become a psychic or a medium. Over the years, I have demonstrated mediumship, confounded skeptics with the accuracy of my readings, and taught students how to unlock their latent psychic powers. For BBC television, my real-world Psychic School classes were filmed over a year and made into a major 3-part documentary. Now I show you how to recognise and harness your own psychic powers. In fact, these forces may already be at work in your own life through gut feelings, dreams and perceptions. All you need to do is understand how to recognise and channel your abilities. I will show you how to set up a circle that can take you from fledgling psychic to professional medium. Learn about clairvoyance, meditation, spirit guides, aura reading, inspirational speaking, psychic mediumship, and other age-old techniques. Open up to the spirituality within you and learn the rewards that can follow. Psychic School is available from Amazon or my website at psychics.co.uk.